My favorite memory from the 1977 team had to be right after the team finals as we were waiting for the results to be tabulated. It probably took about 15 minutes. It felt like much longer than that.
It just takes them like all day. Like we couldn't figure out we were all waiting around, all the teams waiting around. So then they go through this list, who's fifth and fourth and third. I don't even remember who got third place or fourth place. We knew it was going to be between us and Oklahoma. And so, the announcer has this long pause, and then he says something like, and for second place, it's actually a tie. There's no second place. It's a tie. And when he said it's a tie between Oklahoma and Indiana State University, I have no idea what he said after that. We just went berserk, man.
Kurt goes, no, we won. And I always say, what do you mean? How did we win? Well, remember, there was only one trophy. And we had to flip for the trophy. They had to make another NCAA trophy for the other person, the other team, OU. And so we flipped. Indiana State won the flip. We win the NCAA championship. Those guys are just tailing along.
After that, another favorite moment was when we returned to Terre Haute. And normally what we would do is we would arrive, get in our cars, and all go back to either the dorms or to our homes. And in this case, we went into our gym, and it was packed with people wishing us well and congratulating us for the championship.
Looking down at my team, and then we all looked over in Oklahoma, and I think they were on parallel bars. I remember the first guy missed, so we knew that there was a chance.
The deal I made with my parents is that they were, of course, they were in the A where the smoked like smokestacks. Back in the day where our parents just, that wasn't an unhealthy thing. It was a cool thing to do. And my parents smoked all through, my whole life. I said, okay, here's the deal. If we win nationals, you have to give up smoking. So I get a little choked up about this because we win and they both throw their cigarettes on the floor, which I thought was kind of cool.
What made our team special can probably be summarized with 3 letters. PMA.
PMA, positive mental attitude.
We were a bunch of strong personalities, a bunch of really good gymnasts, but man, we have one thing in common. We were focused on being the very best gymnasts each and every one of us could be.
Roger Council taught me a great deal about leadership, the way he led our team. He himself was a champion diver, never a gymnast in his own right. But somehow he learned how to empower every gymnast in that gym to be a part of a solution that just lifted everybody's spirits, gave everybody the kind of encouragement and support that they needed. He empowered, after all, he had the best gymnasts in the world on every apparatus. We had Jack Fisher on the rings. He took NCAA national. He took second on rings in the NCAA tournament. Let's see, we had Mike Booth was the national junior college champion before coming to Indiana State. We just had the best gymnasts on every apparatus. And Coach understood that rather than him having to micromanage, he empowered each of us to coach out of our best gymnastic selves.
I think that there were a number of factors that made the 1977 team so special. It obviously all began with Kurt. At that point, he was a junior, had really hit his stride. He was certainly the best gymnast in the country. He may have been the best in the world at that point. But beyond Kurt, the team was fabulous. We had great senior leadership, and we had a number of new faces as both as freshmen and also junior college transfers. And on top of that, we had a new assistant coach in Rick Danley, who had been the national champion for Indiana State on the horizontal bar several years before. He came in my mind, he provided a stabilizing influence and was just a great coach technically.
Well, he talked a lot about Indiana State and a lot about his time there. We have a 15-year age gap, so actually when he was in school, I was 4 to 8 years old, so I wouldn't have been able to see it, but I heard a ton of stories about the team itself and the camaraderie around the team. And then I was lucky enough where, for some reason, even though it was Indiana State, a lot of those team members ended up back in the same area. So not only did I get to hear about them, but I was able to meet them. We did barbecues with them, and we got to hang with their families and meet different people on the team. And it became a second family of that Indiana State group in Texas.
Well, we had a thing called late meals. And at the university, most athletes had to work out later past the regular standard meal time for the university. So we had a thing called late meals. So we would always be with the women's team and our team, and we would go and have late meals and had a really good time because we were kind of all together, men and women, and the gymnast parties that we used to have that probably can't go into too much detail, but we had some pretty good gymnastics parties at some of the houses, the frat houses that were there that I remember. In fact, that's where I met my wife at one of those parties. So yeah, we had some good times, and a lot of the gymnasts, even though gymnasts seemed to be a little more serious, we had some pretty crazy people, and one was Kurt Thomas, which I'll get into a little later.
Past 2 years, Kurt Thomas has been winning competition against the world's best gymnasts, an achievement that had previously been unheard of in a sport traditionally dominated by the Russians and the Japanese.
And then Kurt, who for some reason, I don't know why, but he took me under his wing. And that year I went with him every event, every day, and tried to follow him and keep up, which, as everybody knows, is impossible to do because Kurt was a machine. He was not human. He was built to be what he became, one of the greatest gymnasts ever. Like a great musician or a great writer, Kurt was born to be this gymnast.
I think my favorite memory of Kurt revolves around this date that I went on with this girl named Becky Cole. And, I was talking to Kurt about this girl, that, I thought, yeah, she's pretty special, man, So, I was nervous about asking her out and everything. And he was like, it's okay, man. You should take her out, go out with her. I said, man, I don't know anything. She doesn't like gymnastics. She doesn't want to talk about gymnastics. And he's going, my girlfriend. And at that time, it was a woman named Beth. And he said, Beth doesn't like to talk about gymnastics either. She won't let me talk about gymnastics when we're out on date. So I'm like, okay. So we went out on a double date. So the Becky that I took out is my wife for the last, 43 years.
After being with somebody for 45 years, you feel that, you can be honest, you can say whatever you want to say. And so as a person, he was enthusiastic, he was funny, he was really funny. He would say what's on his mind, and when he got out of hand with his stardom, he would kick himself in the butt himself and say, what are you complaining about?
Kurt didn't seek to be around people who fawned over him and who, wanted to talk about how good he was in the gym. He sought people who didn't know anything about gymnastics, and he liked to be around those people.
I think I spent the majority of my marriage walking behind him going, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. He was absolutely hilarious and the most generous person and the kindest person, and he didn't let many people close to him. So if you were one of his friends and in his circle, you felt how special that was. And he made you feel very special. When Kurt would walk into a room, everybody became better. Everybody rose to the occasion. He had a very outgoing personality, but it was one of taking over the room in a great way, where you just wanted to be part of whatever he had to say.
Kurt obviously was a standout. We had other all-arounders that were also standout. And obviously, as I'd mentioned before, the depth of the team made a huge difference, but Kurt encouraged everybody just by the way he was. And by that I mean, when he walked into a room, and you guys know what I mean, he had a certain way about him. Same thing when you approach the equipment to compete and to perform a routine. His excellence was second to none, really.
Now watch this, is Thomas Blair on the floor. You think they're paying attention in Terre Haute, Indiana? The crowd loves him. Listen to the reaction. My God, Jim, if this kid comes home with...
He really brought men's gymnastics to the forefront. We'd only had one other male gymnast from the United States that ever won a medal. Now Kurt comes into the scene. He wins a gold medal, a couple gold medals at the World Championships, never been done. And he's had several awards. So yeah, he'd definitely be on Mount Rushmore.
I think the title father to him was incredibly important. I think he was an amazing father and husband. I think his goals changed as I knew him. When we were first married, Kurt lost his father at a very young age. So for him, he wanted to create a family unit, but I could tell even in the beginning of our marriage, he was fearful of that, just because of what he had lost. And as time grew and we had our own children, Kurt couldn't have been more involved with making sure they were happy. His biggest thing when I would try to be hard on them, or when I would try to say, well, they have to do this or they have to do that, he would always say, they just need to be safe and happy. That's it. That's it.
The family meant everything to Kurt. And I tell you, this is hard. He's a great father.
And I am grateful that they were the age that they were, and they were in their 20s when Kurt passed away, because they had this gift of having this father that truly is something that my son will strive to be, and it's something that my daughter will try to find.